Good evening, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to Nachman from Connectbooks. Nachman, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And thank you so much for bringing me on. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so you've been a very big supporter of the events. We appreciate it. And you were on some podcasts before, and you run, I don't know, the largest or one of the largest bookkeeping companies for Amazon sellers. And you have an interesting perspective which many other people do not have. So tell me, please, how has the market changed in the last couple of years? I know a lot of people are hurting. You hear stories about it's harder to make money. From your perspective, looking at so many sellers, how has the market changed the last couple of years?
Yeah, so first I'll just give a little overview about what I do and how I see everything. But we run two companies. We run a software company called Connectbooks, which is a bookkeeping software automation. So every big seller, one of the things they want to make sure is that they have a proper set of books. It's something pretty complicated to do. And the easiest way for them is by utilizing our software, which automates the process, meaning they still keep their in-house bookkeeper or they use their bookkeeping company, wherever they use. With our software, they will be able to automate the bookkeeping process and just do it. Get it done in a click of a button. We do have a separate service, is which people who don't want to be involved at all, we do a full bookkeeping service. What we have seen of talking to a lot of sellers, and we service over 1,000 sellers, and from talking to a lot of people and the way stuff have shifted, is I would say is that business is harder these days than what it was. Now that doesn't mean that nobody's making money. So I know some people are having a really hard time now, but some people are still pulling through. Now I'd say in general, Amazon has its own issues with Amazon coming out with new fees, new policies, new stuff. That's one aspect to look at it. But there's another aspect to take into account is the economy. Same way construction is down, and a lot of people who are in construction or mortgages, just moved into different industries and went to get new jobs. So when the economy shifts down, consumer spending's down, everything is down, it trickles across the market all the way. So the answer is that in these days, it's definitely slower and definitely harder than it was 2 years ago. But we do see a lot of still solid sellers, big sellers, especially the people who are really focused on the numbers, are still doing pretty well these days, and they're still making money.
Okay, so that's interesting. So now, one of the things with Amazon when margins are tight, I mean, they're dealing with so much money and the profits are small, little shifts which can have a big impact on your profits. What would you say is the number one, number two thing a seller can do, not necessarily to spend more on PPC, but to increase his profit?
Yeah, so I would say is that over the last 2 years, where business has gotten very tough, so you have to really be on top of your game. You have to really know your numbers very well in order to maneuver it the right way. So, like, if you're really out of touch with your numbers and the market shifts a little bit, what I've seen a lot of times happen, a lot of these sellers go under, and I've personally dealt with a couple such type of sellers who like really had no clue, and by the time we were trying to help them was already too late. But what I've seen a lot is that do two aspects in it's really in any inventory based business, especially with Amazon. The first thing is what I've seen a lot of people be very busy with is looking how much profit they're making. So, for example, if I sell a product on Amazon for $100, and let's say Amazon charges me commission, fulfillment fees, all the different fees. Let's say I stay over with 70. Then let's say the product cost me 50, so I made now $20 profit. So this is the first step, which every seller has been doing since they started selling in Amazon. And there's a million programs. I mean, Connectbooks has a dashboard tool, and there's a million other competitions in that as well, which will show you exactly how much profit you're making on every single product after all the Amazon fees. The challenge which goes above that, and which I've seen actually happening, is that a lot of people bought a ton of inventory in the last 2 years and they're having a hard time getting rid of it. Now, up until now, when the economy was good, it was much easier to just get rid of something. You always found another guy who's maybe wholesale, or you tried to liquidate it, or you tried to buy it in different places. And it's very easy just to really take your inventory and get rid of it. These days, you have to be very, very careful. Now, the challenge is, besides looking at your profitability, the next step is you want to look at your inventory. And for an Amazon seller and any inventory-based business, what I say is inventory is a silent killer. You know why it's silent? Because when you finish the month and you ask your bookkeeper to give you a profit and loss of how much money they're making, the thing that you don't see there is your inventory. So for example, let's say I do $100,000 in sales. Let's say Amazon took away 50,000 in fees, and let's say the cost of the product was 30,000. So I stay over with $20,000 in profit, but we're forgetting how much inventory did you buy this month that haven't sold. For example, if you bought from, if let's say you buy a lot of inventory, you're sitting in a lot of inventory, it doesn't come up on your books. So you don't realize how much inventory you have. And at the end of the day, that's what's killing your cash flow. And the problem is it's a very tedious process to really have a good structure of the inventory. And I would say there's two key aspects to it. Number one is knowing what's in stock, knowing first of all what your stock is, like how much inventory you have. Now, when I say how much inventory I have, it's not like I know in the back of my mind. I'm asking a question: do you have 100,000? Do you have 500? Do you have 1 million? Do you have 3 million? Like know your number right away. And then the next most important thing is knowing how long it's laying in how long the product is laying in your inventory. So what I have told people is that if you keep inventory, let's say for more than 2 months, that's not a good metric. Meaning if you're sourcing domestic, not if you're sourcing from China, but if you're sourcing domestically and you're buying stuff, what you want to do is try to keep lower inventory. So that's less cash and less risk tied up. And you want to keep on replenishing more often than actually, buying inventory worth 6 months or 5 months or 4 months. Now, the problem is that most people don't know how to measure that metric. They don't know, for example, from when they pay for a product till it sells to the customer, meaning, let's say I buy a product, if I make a wire today, till that gets to my warehouse, then I process it, send it to FBA, and then it goes to the customer. How long is this chain reaction? How long does this take? Most people have no clue and have no way how to measure this. I mean, I haven't found really any other platforms that do it because you have to have a real inventory movement tracking to do it. And sometimes people sign up with very fancy softwares that can do these stuff, but they're overly complicated. So when you understand how long you buy a product and how long it's in your possession, how long it's holding up your cash till the money gets recycled back into your account, you would think twice before jumping onto a deal that comes your way. And what I would say is, like, if you can get it to like 2 months, that will help you minimize your risk and inventory, but that's also going to increase a lot of your cash flow. And that's also going to help you stay on top that, okay, I shouldn't really be carrying more than a 60-day supply. And that's going to really increase and help your cash flow. So it's besides being profitable, you also want to make sure that your cash flow positive on top of that.
So what's the solution? You said 2 months, but like, what's the, someone has thousands of products. You have a solution which will help measure that?
Yeah. So one of the things that we just recently did on Connectbooks is we launched a full inventory module. And the idea of our inventory module, so, as part of our company is that, the reason why I like our software is that we also use the software just as a customer, because we have a bookkeeping company and we use the software just as a customer. And one of the things that we always been struggling is, we would tell a customer, okay, this is how much money you made last month. So that's on the profit and loss, like you have a P&L. But then when we want to look over the health of the company, okay, so how much inventory do they have? How much liabilities do they have? How much equity do they have left in the company? So the question was, okay, so now I know this customer has $2 million worth of inventory. But then the next question was for me, how healthy is this inventory? So let's say I give you a story that I have with a customer. He did $22 million in sales in 1 year on Amazon. After cost of goods sold, after all over, after everything from his, at the bottom line in QuickBooks, they stayed over with 1.4 million in profit. So first glance, you say, beautiful. Business made $1 million after payroll, meaning after even the owners payroll. The owners each draw like $500,000 each.
Yeah.
So we thought it was amazing. But the answer was it wasn't, because there was no money in the bank. So what was the problem? The problem was that in the beginning of the year, they had $3 million worth of inventory. And at the end of the year, they had $6 million worth of inventory. So what does that mean? That means to say that the 1.4 million profit that they made went straight back into inventory. So they basically built up their business with additional $3 million worth of inventory, and then they plus borrowed additional 1.5. So they had 1.5 million in profit plus additional 1.5 million in loans. That money all of a sudden went back to their inventory. And technically, what's the whole point in the business if you're just increasing debt and not making money? Now, what happened was when we were reviewing the financials, we pointed this out to them and they're like, wow, we didn't realize because they were having deals coming in and they're just buying deals. Now, when you're moving so much inventory, it's really, really hard to understand, okay, how long is this laying on my shelf? Like it's not, you can look how much money you're making easily on a dashboard, but you have to have a real good system to know, okay, how many days has this been in my inventory? How long is it laying here? And that's something that was very challenging. We knew that they had an increase in $3 million worth of inventory, but we didn't know which products were not doing well. So these days we have an aged inventory. So we can tell them, okay, so for example, your inventory went from 3 million to 6 million, but we right away be able to tell them, look, these 20 products are laying here so long. Why in the world did you buy so many? What was your thought process when you bought this originally that you think it would sell well? So what we try to do these days, and we try to really tell people like, be realistic with yourself. If this won't sell out in 2 months, then don't buy that much, or try to buy less. Try to buy more frequent, try to buy more or less. Always tell people, and I went to some other customers, never be scared to say no to a deal. If a deal is not a good deal, then just don't buy it. Wait around or spend more time finding a better deal. But a lot of time the deals could look so good because the numbers make sense, everything makes sense. But the problem is you forget to realize like how long is it going to take you to sell. And often sellers can be sitting with $1 million or $2 million in their bank, and they just don't realize that this is going to really tighten up their cash flow. And if it tightens up their cash flow that strong, they're not going to be able to spin it around fast enough. So it's understanding how long this product is going to sit in your inventory and how long it's going to affect at the end of the day. Now, for people sourcing from multiple different products, what we can do is we can do different categories. Like, so if you're bringing it from overseas, I wouldn't say the number is 2 months. I would say numbers maybe 4 months, or whatever the number you're comfortable with. If someone's bringing in inventory for more than 6 months and they got a big issue, but it should be locally like around 20, I would say 2 months at max, and 4 to 5 months for overseas, and just constantly keep on replenishing, keep stuff moving the right way. So, and that's how you, on top of that number, you can see what's going on.
Fascinating. Let me ask you another question, a little bit unrelated, but a lot of people a few years ago sold their business. Are people still doing that? I would think you would be a significant person in this space, or key person, because you can get them. People don't know their numbers. So in order to evaluate how much a company is worth, you need good bookkeeping. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I would say a lot has changed in the last 2 years of selling that business. When this key momentum came in here that people were selling businesses, aggregators were just pulling businesses out of the shelf. No one needed books, no one needed anything. We made up numbers and it just went. However, people are still selling their businesses today, not what they used to, and it's not going the same route. However, these days it's being way more thorough. Now, when I mean to see way more thorough, it's not going to be like, let me just look into this program and let me just hook up to Amazon's API and just verify that the sales are accurate. What they're going to want to see is they're going to want to have a proper set of books. They're going to want to see your overhead, because one of the big mistakes that the aggregators did. I mean, the biggest mistake were that they thought that they can replace business owners with 9 to 5 people, which that proved completely flawlessly, because when there's issue in the company, the business owner is the one who stays up at night to make sure it gets resolved. But besides those issues, they also they also never looked over his accounts properly. Like they said, where they would say, okay, so let's say your business did let's say 10 million of sales, let's say cost of goods sold is 5 million, so we're considering you have a 5 million net profit. They never estimated properly for operating expenses, overhead expenses, which these days they're doing very differently. These days they're doing a full analysis. They're not just going to say, let me see what your business made based off Amazon and everything else I'm going to look away. No, they're going to say, give me your books. Let me see everything from A to Z. Now, there's something called add backs. You can say, okay, like for example, if let's say somebody has his car as part of the business, because he drives around for the business, you can add that back. Maybe say that's not really an expense related to the business, but when it comes to other stuff, they're not gonna let you just get away with what they used to. So there is a market still today. There is still people selling Amazon businesses. We are involved here and there with other companies, but it's definitely not like what it used to be. Meaning at this point, they're doing really thorough checks and really digging into the right side to make sure that when they take over this business, it's really going to be profitable, not that they're going to fail with it.
Right, and we'll leave it. There's one final question. What percent of the market share do you think is non-Amazon today? And at least from the Amazon sellers that you're dealing with, because everyone today is trying multi-channel. What would you say realistically is that number?
So what I would say is there's a lot of things to talk about that, but I've seen a lot of people trying to invest in other marketplaces are failing big time and just basically neglecting their Amazon, which I would first say is make sure that your Amazon account is still going strong. I've seen people trying to go into a lot of other marketplaces. I know Amazon has exorbitant amount of fees, but in Amazon, you have so many softwares that can automate everything. If you want to, let's say, go sell on Wayfair or Wish, there's no softwares for it. There's nobody. Yeah, maybe one or two huge companies integrate with them and they charge an arm and a leg. And I've seen those so many times where people try to diversify in 10 different marketplaces and they're failing to gain the proper traction. And basically, what's happening is they're neglecting their Amazon account and it's costing them a ton of more money to keep up the other marketplaces because there's not that many resources. Meaning, if you need a listing for Amazon, you'll find something. Any Amazon service you need, you'll find somebody out there. With Wayfair, I don't think so. You'll find. So that's one thing to take into account. The other thing is where I would rephrase the question is, what platforms do people make money besides Amazon? Because let's say eBay, I can't say that, nobody's huge on eBay. The people who are like huge on Amazon, do nice volume on eBay, but I don't think you can, back in the days, maybe in 2005 or in 2004, they used to say, oh, he's a huge eBay seller. But nobody says that today anymore.
Right, right.
Everybody who's selling on eBay is just their Amazon returns. What I would say, what people should really think of and should be more considerate is which platforms could we make money? Meaning, in order to make money, first thing what a platform needs is traffic. Without traffic, you're not getting anything. So first thing is you need the traffic. Second is you need the profitability. So the question is, which other platforms have significant traffic that you think if you would invest enough time in it, you would be able to make money? I mean, TikTok, we have seen recently trend up like crazy. All you need is one influencer to really do a good job on the product. And if you're private label, you definitely can do very well on TikTok if you do it right. We've seen people make a lot of money on TikTok. And I would say the other one is Shopify, but I would say Shopify is very, very hard because Shopify is about, you have to build your brand, meaning Shopify, your traffic is not dependent. Like if let's say Walmart, right? There's not much you can do on Walmart, meaning you can drive outside traffic to Walmart, but the idea is if you're selling on Walmart, you're dependent on Walmart's traffic. Versus Shopify, it's your own website. So you could spend a lot of money driving traffic from Facebook, Instagram, or all different places, or Google ads from other sources to your website. And people, there's a lot of people do very well on their own website. It is harder in a certain sense than Amazon because you have to establish a brand, you have to establish trust, which, when somebody shops on Amazon, they don't really trust your product. They're basically trusting Amazon and the brand is basically an Amazon, but you could do very well on Shopify if you know how to build a brand and know how to pull it up the right way.
Right, it's amazing. But generally speaking, there haven't been, from the big Amazon sellers that we know, I mean, it's still Amazon, Amazon, Amazon.
Yeah, it is because Amazon has a traffic. I mean, I myself I buy at least once or twice a day on Amazon. I haven't seen the stuff moving off anywhere else. It's just they are they're fast. It's easy. The app is easy. The stuff is good. I mean, the only other place which really I've seen trending a lot and they're thinking people are speculating that the new they have now you have the millennials, you have the Gen Zs. They're saying that the Gen Zs are going to be a lot. It's going to be not just it's going to be a lot of social buying. It's not so much about like if I need something I go on Amazon and buy. Social buying is different. Social buying it's people just influence and I mean I actually bought maybe one or two stuff on TikTok just because it popped up on my feed.
Yeah, but if I need a shirt, if I need garbage, I buy it on Amazon. I'm gonna have time to
Yeah,
pick.
no, right, but these people selling different types of shirts on TikTok, which you would have never thought of. I mean, these all
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe one here, one there, but I'm talking about the
no, but if
daily.
you no, these people, I mean, these people doing over 6 figures a month on TikTok and making huge profits off it. Meaning it's
Right.
not like but like you might get on TikTok, you can get introduced very easy to a different brand. If the influencer is right, you'll get introduced to a different brand, and that brand might have more advantages to the shirt than versus a regular shirt. So you might have never thought of buying the shirt because we always used to just going on Amazon buying the same shirt as well. But if you watch a TikTok influencer, they might have a very good idea why that shirt is better. And then if you try it once, you might just be a repeat customer of that brand.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I buy almost everything on Amazon, but this was really eye-opening. And I mean, the main thing what I got from this is that the length of time you have to wait a length of time for how fast the inventory is going to move, which is not being measured.
Yeah, it's people don't really talk too much about it. Everybody, and the thing is, the difference I would say from us when it comes to the inventory perspective than other companies, everybody always, when it comes to inventory, everybody always wants to know, like, what do I have in stock? By me, it's not like we're not here for like what you have in stock. We're more from a financial perspective. How healthy is your inventory turnover? How fast are you flipping stuff? I would just add on one very interesting factor. I'm a huge Costco fan, and Costco stock in the last like 5 years went up over double. Now, do you know Costco has a 12x turnover, which means that they turn over their inventory once a month. So on average, when something enters the Costco warehouse, it doesn't leave in more than 30 days.
Wow.
And that I mean they're selling branded products, which people knows might be easier to push. I mean, they have also their own brand, Kirkland Signature, but they make sure that they don't keep inventory more than 30 days and they spin it 8 times, I mean they spin it like 12 times a year. So, and actually even Walmart themselves has an 8x turnover, meaning Walmart keeps their inventory, they flip their inventory 8 times a year. So it means a product will in the shelf on average, like around 45 days, somewhere around there. But
Right.
focusing not to keep huge stocks. And I think sellers have to really learn. It's a hard thing to clamp down on because when you already find that product, you really think you found it. Now, like, okay, so how much should I buy? But if you look at the leading stores, they don't carry that much inventory.
I see. Amazing. Okay. And this, we'll put a link in the description below. And it already works, this module
Yeah,
for,
yeah, the module works. We have a waiting list, so as long if you sign up for our program, you can join the waiting list. And I'd say we have a couple of week waiting time, but we're slowly onboarding more and more clients. It is a detailed process. We did focus a lot on automation, so basically it's it's very very automated. You don't really have to like spend that much time, but we need to put client through the proper onboarding to make sure they understand how it works.
amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure. Thank you. Really appreciated this.
Thank you so much.